it's me again. Today's date is January 12th, 2023. It's a Thursday. And this is the first video of the mini-series collaboration Uncle Smokey and myself are doing. This is in regards to Bridge Hydrocarbons, MMTLP. In this video, we explore one of the reasons why brokerages are so quiet. And we talked to different brokerages. I talked to JP Morgan. More or less, what I was doing is I was testing the validity of my shares. I was told when the Bridge Hydrocarbon share showed up as a private equity in my account, I could then bespoke these in a private sale. But in this video, you'll hear the results of that conversation and my interpretation of it, my opinion. And this isn't financial advice. This is entertainment. And so where cost you, are you not entertained? This is my own personal journey. You're watching One Bird's Thoughts. And then Uncle Smokey talks with Webull, and he learns why Webull gives specific deadlines and why Webull is charging money to transfer shares to AST. Let's watch this video.
Hey, Bird. I heard you whistled at JP Morgan the other day. What's the word?
I did call JP Morgan. JP Morgan told me in a prior conversation a couple weeks ago that once the contra CUSIP becomes a real Bridge share, I would be able to bespoke sale my share on the gray sheets. So that's what I did. I called up JP Morgan and I said, hey, I'd like to bespoke private sale my shares on the gray sheets. This says private equity, Bridge Hydrocarbons in my account. It no longer says contra CUSIP. Let's try to gray sheet them. So here's my call of me trying to bespoke sale my Bridge Hydrocarbons at JP Morgan.
Tried placing a trade online and it gave you some weird error. What are you looking to trade?
So in my account is Bridge Hydrocarbons. It's a private equity.
It's my resources, and I'll be back shortly just to read out the trade confirmation. And I'll read it back to you, and if that sounds perfect, I'll submit it, and then we should be good with that.
Wonderful. So, what's your name, sir? You're wonderful. I love it. Thank you so much.
My name. So I do have some news for you. So
okay.
After looking into it, that is a penny stock. My position, I do not have the authority to trade on that, but I can easily transfer you to the correct department, and they can get that easily taken care of.
That's really interesting how it says penny stock now, even though it says private equity. That's really interesting. Yeah, because it should be it's not, it's a private company. Wow. Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, transfer me to who can help me. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll just put you on a brief hold, and I'll bring someone on the line from the right department that would easily to help you out with that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Can we help you this morning?
Right. What's in my account as Bridge Hydrocarbons now comes up as a private equity. I was trying to gray sheet some of those. And William came back and said, oh, he couldn't because it's labeled as a penny stock, which I found rather interesting. And he said that you would be able to help me with that.
Okay. I do see the shares of Bridge Hydrocarbons Incorporated in your account. So you were trying to sell
yes,
some of
the
shares here this morning?
Yes, sir. Partial of them, yes.
Okay. Let me see what we can do to sell these shares. We'll place you on a brief hold and come back to you in just a few moments.
Thank you so much.
Unfortunately, after doing a little bit of research here and communicating with our corporate actions group, we've determined that because Bridge is currently a private equity share, we cannot route these orders to an exchange currently.
Right. I was trying to yes, sir. I was trying to gray sheet them earlier, and that's why I was trying to gray sheet them, and because it's a private equity. And the JP shouldn't have had any problems with it, but yeah, then I was told it's a penny stock. Do you think, sir, Zach, that these are still like maybe a type of contra share in JP? I'm wondering.
Right now, we're being advised that our legal and compliance department is working on a process for clients to be able to move or transfer these shares. Currently, we cannot place any orders at the time being. All right,
Thank you.
we've been following this corporate
Yeah.
action pretty closely,
Okay.
so we'll
Okay.
continue to
I
be on the lookout
appreciate it.
for updates. But
Sure.
anything else? But yeah, we are eagerly waiting for more information to pass on to our clients. Currently, while we do see the next bridge shares allocated, and that's one step closer, we are still waiting for information about what will be the ultimate destination or options for our clients that are holding these shares.
Okay, so why did JP Morgan call Bridge Hydrocarbons a penny stock?
Well, Smokey, at first, when I went to go place my order and the broker went to go put it in to sell it, it got kicked back to him as a penny stock. Up until that point, it was treated and it looked just like a private equity share. However, once he placed the order, it got kicked back to him as being a penny stock. I was testing to see if it was an Nextbridge share, and up until it got kicked back, the broker believed it to be a Nextbridge share. But it got kicked back as a penny stock. And then when I went to the next desk that could liquidate penny stocks, again, setting my sell limit order for a test run of $100 a share for 1,000 shares, the penny stock desk told me that they couldn't sell it at this time and to call back later. They're waiting for the compliance and legal team to give further instructions.
So you're telling me it's not a real Bridge Hydrocarbon share?
I actually did ask Nextbridge if it was still a contra CUSIP, because you can't really sell it at contra CUSIP with JP Morgan. And of course, they informed me to call back later when they've received more instructions from their legal and compliance department, who is currently working on the situation. So I'd like to point out the fact that JP Morgan is acting like there is a chill or a freeze on these shares, which makes me think that they're not quite Nextbridge shares yet. If they were Nextbridge shares, then according to the SEC, the chill or freeze would be off. But because they're acting like there's a chill or freeze, then quite possibly these aren't Nextbridge shares. I'm taking the logical approach to this. We all know that there's a problem. This is just the logical way to provide evidence which supports that there is indeed a problem.
Wow, it seems to me that JP Morgan is still just as confused as we all are.
I was very surprised because usually JP Morgan is like the competent company withholding and selling private equities in a private bespoke sale. And in this instance, they still couldn't do it. Speaking of which, Smokey, a little birdie told me that you were blowing smoke in Weevil's ear. What did Weevil have to say?
Well, I asked Webull a bunch of questions about the validity of my Bridge Hydrocarbon shares. Webull told me Apex Clearing is the entity holding on to all the Bridge Hydrocarbon shares for Webull, and that Apex is both the custodian and the clearinghouse, and Webull will be holding the shares in street name only. So, what is actually sitting in my Webull account is not an actual Bridge Hydrocarbon share. It's again a placeholder.
I'm going to comment on that, Smokey, because JP Morgan doesn't use a custodian. They actually had their own clearinghouse, JP Morgan Clearing Corporation. So JP Morgan is your custodian in my case. And yet when I still tried to bespoke sell my Nextbridge shares, it bounced back as a penny stock, and I wasn't able to sell them in either case. JP Morgan says we can't sell them until Simon says yes.
Now, Webull also said that after January 20th, there will be no instructions for transfer. You have until the 20th to decide if you want to transfer to AST. In a later email, I asked the question again. Webull responded that Apex needs to open a reorg event. So, I'll read you the email. Thank you for your inquiries. Our clearing firm Apex has opened a reorganization event to facilitate the transfer of your shares of Bridge Hydrocarbons to AST. The date is set for 1/20 of 2023. The fees are charged by AST and Apex. And as for your third question, I'll ask my manager and get back to you. They did. And then 3. Apex cannot hold private securities in a customer's name, but can hold in a street name. After 1/20, no instructions of transfer can be entered. So Webull and Apex basically said they are going to batch my shares with other holders because of the costs involved in it. It has to be in batches to spread the cost load across multiple people. And they also stated to please allow 6 to 9 weeks for the transfer to be completed. This does give Apex time to batch those multiple holders together in separate account numbers instead of doing individual orders. And it also allows time for the system to process the transfer in its entirety and AST to get a statement to me.
Do you believe that Apex has real shares?
After several emails going back and forth, Webull did not answer if these were real shares or not. Instead, they told me they had the old CUSIP and the new CUSIP. The former CUSIP for metamaterials placeholder on the December 12th record date was 59134N203. Following the December 29th DTCC delivery from AST, the new Contra CUSIP is 591994371 with the description of metamaterials preferred stock Contra CUSIP. So, as of right now, we know that the DTCC received the shares from the AST and we're still dealing with a Contra CUSIP. I then asked Webull, do you have the new ISIN number? And they responded with no, they do not have the new ISIN number. Now, I know that the question's going to arise, so I'm going to go ahead and answer it. What is an ISIN number? Let me answer you. It is the International Securities Identification Number. It is an 12-digit alphanumeric code that uniquely identifies a specific security, not a stock, not something tradable, the security. That means it could be either private or public. And as we know, NextBridge Holding is a private, publicly reporting company due to the number of shareholders. An ISIN number are allocated by a country's respective national numbering agency, or the NNA. It is not the same as a ticker symbol or a CUSIP, which identifies the stock at an exchange level or at a corporation level. The ISIN number is a unique number assigned to the security that is universally recognized. It does not matter what the CUSIP number is from broker to broker or country to country. It matters what the ISIN number is. The ISINs are used for numerous reasons, including clearing and settlement. The numbers ensure a consistent format so that holdings of institutional investors can be tracked consistently across markets worldwide.
Wow! That's an excellent job of explaining to everybody what an ISIN number is. Because that has been really overlooked in this situation. People are focusing on CUSIP, CUSIP, CUSIP. The question is, what's the ISIN number? And I think that might be a good question to AST, the transfer agent. What's the ISIN number? Or even FINRA, if they can. If you can get a hold of somebody there, what's the ISIN number? Because it should be the same throughout all of the real NextBridge shares. That's what makes it a like kind in this instance, is the ISIN number. Smokey, do you think shares in NextBridge can still be lent out at this time despite it being in a private company right now?
That's a great question, Bird. As a matter of fact, I asked Webull the same question.
And what did Webull have to say?
Well, what they told me was, regarding my third question, if you remember back to earlier in this video, shares can be in theory still lent out even if a stock is not tradable. But Webull cannot comment on what other brokerages or market makers do with said shares. That means that Webull is openly admitting that they do lend their shares out and they're lending them to other broker dealers and other market makers. But they're also openly saying that we can't disclose what they're doing with those things. I do find that quite interesting that they're not willing to talk about those practices, because that practice is hush, hush. So, as for your own shares, because you have fully exited from the FPSL, or the share lending program, since June of 2021, you can be assured that your shares have not and will not be lent out.
Well, we all know brokers still try to lend out your shares, even if you're not part of the share lending agreement. And if the brokers are lending out your shares still, then we both have to ask, where are the NextBridge shares? So that was our first video. JP Morgan has its own clearing firm. They clear their own shares through JP Morgan Clearing Corporation. They clear their own shares. It's not like Webull, where they don't have your actual shares. It's a placeholder, and Apex keeps your shares. Their clearing corporation and their custodial firm keep your shares for you. They just have an allocated amount. Yours is in street name, but you get a placeholder to represent what's at Apex. That is your representative placeholder, which should be treated about the same. It should be, considered a type of tender. JP Morgan, on the other hand, is its own custodian and clearing firm. But I still had issues there. And this begs the question, where are the NextBridge shares, right? What are they waiting for? What's legal and compliance waiting for? I found that very interesting. We're going to dive more into the halt. And we are going to be asking questions, digging for answers. What it made sense at first, but it turned out not to be. All that. And then it's like MMTLP, the investigation. More questions lead to more questions. Here is where I will also tell you, before I wrap things up, that took about 3 takes to say that. Go check out Uncle Smokey's video, as we have different intros, outros, and we give our own opinions on what we experienced. Of course, because this is our own personal blog, although we are working together. We still have different opinions and we interpret things differently. And I think that's why we, chose to work together, because we can interpret things differently and say, okay, we can see, okay, I see that and he can see that. And, we always keep each other's perspective in the back of our minds, because, there's always that possibility that something can happen. But we're aware of the situation because we had that perspective at the back of our minds. It's just, I think one of the benefits of collaborating and working with other people. And you can see that process now of how we do things. Okay, guys, that's it for today. I will see you soon. Goodbye.